Good morning everybody. Um, the previous 4 sessions I have been discussing about the wave motion, and we have also discussed sound as a wave motion. Generally, sound can be classified into two different types, that is musical notes and noise. So, based on what we classify sound into musical note and noise, that is our session today. And how to produce, transmit and receive good quality of sound in a building, that is what are the acoustics of a building, how to get good quality sound, production, transmission and reception of good quality sound, what are the steps to be taken to achieve that, all that we are going to discuss in our today's session, that is musical notes and acoustics of a building. Now, the sounds, the musical note and noise, first let us characterize what a musical note is and what a noise is, and then go to the acoustics of a building. So, the sounds which can be heard by the human ear are distinguished into two types, that is musical notes and noises. If the sound produced is harsh and unpleasant to hear, that type of sound we call as noise, and this noise is produced due to irregular vibration and rapid variation in the amplitude. So, noise is a sound which is irregular vibrations, and the amplitude of the vibration is also rapidly changing. There is no constant change in amplitude. The amplitude will either fall drastically down or it will shoot up drastically. So, the figure here, the 6.17b shows the graphical representation of noise. Here we can see the amplitude goes on varying erratically. So, this type of sound which has erratic variation in amplitude and unpleasant to hear is what we call as noise. So, examples for noise: sound produced by a metal plate dropped on floor. Suppose we drop a vessel, suddenly the hand slips and the vessel drops out. That sound what we get we call as noise, because it is irritating to our ears and unpleasant. We do not like listening to that sound. And another example to give for noise is the sound produced by hitting a tabletop with a hammer, etc. Or anything which irritates us, any sound which irritates us, we call it as sound. Sometimes even musical notes can become noise when the amplitude is very high, which cannot be tolerable to our ears. If such amplitudes are intensity of music also becomes noise. So, that is the meaning of noise, a sound which produces harsh and unpleasant sensation to our ear is called noise, and it is produced due to irregular vibration and rapid variation in amplitude. Next, let us see what is music then. Sound producing pleasant sensation to our ears is called musical note, and it continues for a longer time. Musical note is produced due to the regular and periodic vibrations with uniform changes in amplitude as shown in figure here. Figure A shows us the graphical representation of music. See, this is repeating after every few seconds. So, it is a periodic motion and it is pleasant to hear. Such type of sounds we classify as a music. So, example for music is sound produced when we pluck the string of sitar or veena, or when we produce music using mouth organ or flute. All those are examples for musical notes or sounds which are pleasant to listen. Generally, a musical note is characterized by three physical quantities, that is pitch or frequency, intensity or loudness, and the third characteristic is quality or timbre. So, let us know what we mean by pitch, intensity or and quality or timbre. So, first let us know what is pitch with respect to music. So, pitch is nothing but how the sensation of the sound, if it is shrill, then we call it as the pitch is high. If the sensation of sound is very harsh or hoarse, then we call it as the pitch is low. We say the pitch is low. So, the sensation of shrillness is determined by the quantity called pitch of sound. The shrillness varies directly as the frequency of music note. So, if a body has very high frequency, then the pitch is also high. If the frequency is very low, then the pitch is also low. But here one thing we have to remember is frequency is a measurable quantity, but pitch can only be felt, it cannot be measured. So, more the pitch, more is the frequency, hence the shrillness of sound, and vice versa is also true. Though the pitch depends on frequency, they are quite different. Frequency is a measurable quantity, whereas pitch of the musical note can only be felt or sensed, it cannot be measured. So, that we call as pitch. So, pitch depends directly on the frequency of the sound. More the frequency, more is the pitch. Examples to state is the voice of ladies is more shrill and because of the high pitch and high frequency, but the voice is hoarse in case of an aged man due to the low pitch and low frequency of the sound. So, that is an example to let us know what we mean by pitch. So, the next characteristic of sound is intensity. So, intensity is another thing which classifies music into good quality music or not. So, intensity of the musical note is the measure of energy carried by it. It gives the sense of loudness. Loudness depends on the intensity. More the intensity of sound, more is the loudness, and if more is the loudness, the intensity is more. They are vice versa. Intensity depends on loudness and loudness in turn depends on intensity. So, intensity is a measurable quantity, but loudness is the sensation which can be experienced. Again I repeat, intensity is a measurable quantity, but loudness is just a feeling, whether the sound is loud or low we can feel by our ears, whereas the intensity can be measured. The next characteristic of musical note is quality. Musical notes of the same pitch and intensity produced by different instruments can be distinguished by the quality of the musical note. That is, if we take two string instruments, one veena and the other one is sitar, we can differentiate the music of sitar and veena based on the characteristic of music, that is quality of sound or quality of musical note. So, the musical note of an instrument does not contain a single frequency, instead it has a number of frequencies called harmonics, and the number of harmonics differs from one instrument to another instrument. Veena has more number of harmonics compared to sitar. So, based on the harmonics we can distinguish the sound between the musical note between veena and that of sitar. Example to give for quality is the note of flute contains only a few harmonics, whereas the same note produced by a piano contains a large number of harmonics. The other example I told is veena and sitar. The number of harmonics in veena is more compared to sitar. So, we can easily distinguish the sound of veena and sitar. So, this is the quality which enables us to identify the notes produced by different musical instruments. So, suppose we have many instruments played together, we can identify or distinguish the notes produced by different musical instruments based on the quality of sound. So, those are the three characteristics of musical note, that is the pitch or frequency. Pitch is only sensed, frequency can be measured. Intensity or loudness, intensity can be measured, loudness can only be sensed. And the third characteristic is quality of sound. Now, how to get a good quality sound, how to produce, transmit and receive a good quality of sound. It is dealt by a branch of science called acoustics of building. So, the branch of science which deals with the production, propagation and reception of good quality sound in a building is what we call as acoustics of building. The building can be a hall or an auditorium or even a movie theatre, etc. Now, from the acoustic point of view, the major problems we come across in a hall to get good quality sound, we call that as acoustical defects, and what remedies, what changes has to be brought about in the building so that we can receive good quality sound, we call that as remedies, acoustical remedies. So, we are going to discuss both the defects in a building, acoustical defects and acoustical remedies in a building. That is the session we are going to do now. So, the major defects that can be observed in a building are echo and reverberation. We know, everyone know what is meant by echo, but still I would like to go into some details of this echo and reverberation. Both echo and reverberation of sound is because of reflection of sound from a hard surface. So, when a sound wave falls on a hard surface, a fraction of it gets absorbed by the surface and the remaining part gets reflected. It is a rigid, if it is a rigid smooth surface, the reflection is more and the absorption will be less. So, if the surface is porous like porous materials like thermocol or paper or felt is used for walls, then the sound absorption will be more and reflection will be less. So, depending on what amount of sound is getting reflected, the percentage of echo and reverberation will vary from one structure to another structure. So, how to overcome that echo and reverberation? We are going to study that in the remedies for echo and reverberation. So, let us see what we mean by echo. So, the reception of sound produced due to the reflection by a distant surface like hills, building, etc. is termed as echo. So, when sound is heard by ear, its effect remains there on the ears for a period of 1/10th of a second. After this time, if another sound falls on the ear, the two can be distinguished separately. So, to hear echo, minimum distance of the reflecting surface from the source of sound must be 17 meters, because the total distance travelled by the sound wave in 1/10th of a second is 34 meters approximately. This we get from the concept that the velocity of sound is 330 meters per second. So, the distance travelled by the body in 1/10th of a second is 1/10th of 333 meters per second. So, we will get approximately that as 34 meters. It is a decimal thing rounded off to 34 meter. So, the total distance or distance between the source and the reflecting surface, minimum of 17 meters is maintained, then echo can be heard. If the distance is increased beyond 17 meter, also echoes can be produced. So, the presence of echo in a building reduces the clarity of speech or music in it. So, here is the picture which explains the phenomena of echo. So, we have a source of sound, a speaker box which gives out sound. The sound travels in the forward direction. It reaches a reflecting surface which is at a minimum distance of 17 meters. There is a slight correction to be done in the figure, just note it, it is not 17 centimeter, it is 17 meter. So, minimum distance between the source of sound and reflecting surface is 17 meters. So, the sound travels in the forward direction, reaches the reflecting surface, reaches the reflecting surface, and then it comes back from the reflecting surface to the source of sound. So, the time lapse between these two sound travelling in first one direction and coming back in the opposite direction, it should be a minimum of 1/10 of a second. So, the total distance travelled by the sound will be 34 meters. So, that sound received after 1/10th of a second, or if the sound has travelled a distance of 34 meters and reached the person again, then we call it as echo, and this is happening due to the reflection of sound from the hard surface which is at a minimum distance of 17 meters. Next, let us see what we mean by reverberation. Inside a hall or an auditorium, the sound wave produced will undergo multiple reflection due to the walls, floor, ceiling, furniture, and also the human beings sitting inside the room or a hall. A listener in a building receives the original sounds as well as the sounds which undergoes multiple reflections at various surfaces, but there is a time gap between these two sounds, that is the original sound and the reflected sounds. Thus, even after the source emitting sound ceases or stops, the sound remains for some time. This is called reverberation. So, we define reverberation as the persistence of sound in a building even after the emission of sound from the source is ceased or stopped. Even after the source of sound is stopped, the sound gets extended or prolonged. That is what we call as reverberation of sound. The time for which the sound gets persisting or extended is called as reverberation time. So, the time taken by the sound wave to become inaudible from the instant the source stops emitting sound is called reverberation time. The time for which the sound is getting prolonged even after the sound emitting is stopped is what we call as reverberation time. So, the reverberation time in the building should be within the limit for better clarity. If the reverberation time is very low, the sound cannot be heard, since the sound will die or stop quickly. On the other hand, if the reverberation time is very high, the sound lasts for a long time, resulting in the overlapping of the original sound due to the multiple reflections of sound from various surfaces. Thus, the speech in such halls is not clearly intelligible or heard. It is not heard clearly. So, the clarity of speech will not be there if the reverberation time is high. The scientist who gave us or who has derived a formula to calculate the reverberation time is Sabine, and the formula is called as Sabine's formula for reverberation time. So, the theory was put forth by Sabine, and he has given a relation to calculate what should be the optimum reverberation time, that is neither less nor more. So, what should be the correct reverberation time in a building, so the sound is clear and we do not have any overlapping of sound. So, the formula stands as the reverberation time T is equal to 0.16 V divided by A, where V is the volume of the hall in meter cube and A is the total surface absorption in a hall. So, if there are any sound absorbing materials, how much sound is absorbed by them is what we call as total surface absorption, or the sound absorbed by all the surfaces in a hall or a room. When sound falls on a surface, as I told earlier, a part of the sound will be absorbed and the remaining will get reflected. But in case of an open window, there is absolutely no reflection, because whatever sound falls on an open window, it gets transmitted, or we say the sound has been got absorbed. So, an open window is assumed to be a perfect absorber of sound. Whatever sound passes through an open window, it gets transmitted or absorbed, it will not get reflected. So, we call that open window as a perfect absorber of sound. So, the ratio of energy absorbed by unit area of a surface to the energy absorbed by unit area of open window is what we call as coefficient of absorption. So, if we calculate the ratio of how much energy, sound energy, is absorbed by a surface per unit area to that of the energy absorbed by an open window per unit area is what we call as coefficient of absorption, and it is denoted as A. Since it is a ratio, it has got no units, neither dimensions. So, if S is the area of a particular surface, then the total absorption, surface absorption, will be absorption coefficient A into the surface area S. So, in a closed building, various types of reflecting surfaces are present. So, the sum total energy absorbed at various surfaces gives the total surface absorption, and it is equal to A into S, where A is the absorption coefficient or coefficient of absorption of sound, and S is the surface area of the building or surface on which sound is falling. So, capital A will become summation of A into S. Suppose we have various number of since we have various number of surfaces, so we are going to sum all the absorption coefficients into surface areas. So, that will give the total absorption of sound A, capital A. So, the Sabin's formula becomes the reverberation time T is equal to 0.16 V divided by summation A into S. A into S is called surface absorption, total surface absorption. Now, how to avoid echoes and reverberation, that is, what are the remedial steps we have to take up inside a room to prevent echo and reverberation? Let us discuss that one by one. Echo and reverberation are produced due to reflection of sound. Just now we saw both echo and reverberation of sound is due to the reflection of sound from various surfaces. Now, these defects can be minimized by providing a number of ventilators, because as I told, an open window is a perfect absorber of sound. It allows all the sound to get transmitted. So, providing a number of ventilators will help us to avoid reflections. So, that is one method to prevent reflection of sound or echo and reverberation. Secondly, by spreading carpets over the floor, we can avoid the hard surface and increase the absorption of the sound. So, as I told, porous material absorb more sound and reflect lesser. So, when we lay a carpet on the floor, the reflection will be less and absorption will be more. So, that is another way to minimize echo and reverberation. The third one is hanging thick curtains across doors and windows. So, as we see in this studio, here where I am sitting, there should not be any echoes and reverberation. All the walls are covered by sound absorbing material, and also the floor is covered with carpet. We have all curtain behind to prevent reflection of sound. So, hanging thick curtains across doors and windows will prevent reflection of sound, and fixing porous tiles or sheets across walls and ceiling will also prevent reflection of sound. As I told, in this studio, all the care has been taken to avoid reflection of sound. An auditorium or hall is designed such that there should be neither excessive nor low reverberation time. As I told, if the reverberation time is less, the sound will die earlier, will not be able to hear the sound itself. If the reverberation time is more, the sound will get extended or prolonged. There will be overlapping of original sound and the reflected sound, and the clarity will be minimum. So, for speech, the reverberation time is, the optimal reverberation time for speech is said to be 1 second, and that for music it is said to be 2 seconds. So, if it is less than 1 second or greater than 1 second, there is no clarity of speech. For music, if the reverberation time is less than 2 seconds or more than 2 seconds, then again there is no clarity in the music. So, to avoid that, we can provide number of ventilators, so that sound gets transmitted, it will not get reflected. We can spread carpets over the floor, we can put thick curtains across the doors and windows, and we can put a layer of porous sheets or tiles on the walls which will absorb sound. So, that is the care we have to take to prevent reflection of sound, and hence to prevent echo and reverberation in a room. The next type of defect, acoustical defect, we come across in a hall or an auditorium is interference of sound. While discussing the sound, propagation of sound, we had discussed when two sound waves overlap on each other, if the intensity increases, we call it as constructive interference, and if when two sound waves overlap, if the intensity diminishes, we call it as destructive interference. So, this can happen even inside a hall or an auditorium. So, if the sound energy produced in a hall or auditorium should be distributed uniformly throughout, but there may be certain regions where the energy of sound received will be minimum, and the intensity of sound will also be minimum, and some other regions the intensity will be more, or we will hear loud sound. So, to avoid this, what should be done and how that happens inside a room is what we discuss under as the acoustical defect, interference, and remedy of that. So, a listener in a hall may receive two different sound waves, one the direct wave from the source, and the other the reflected wave from the different reflecting surfaces present in the hall. If these two waves superimpose or overlap with each other in such a way that the two sound waves are in phase, then there is an increase in intensity, and that we call as constructive interference. If the original sound and the reflected sound interfere out of phase, the intensity of sound will reduce, and we call it as destructive interference. Both of that is not advisable in a room. The sound should be uniform, the intensity of sound should be uniform for that to be pleasant. If otherwise, the music also can become noise. So, to avoid this interference, what should be done? That is the remedy to be done in a hall or a room to prevent interference. That is the proper selection of dimensions and shape of the hall will help us in preventing interference, and also using sound absorbing materials in the hall will minimize the defect called interference. So, as I told, the interference is happening because of the sound from the source and the sound which is coming from the reflected surface. Again, by reducing the reflecting surfaces, we can prevent or reduce the defect called interference. So, that is another defect inside a building which has to be taken care of. The next acoustical defect is resonance. In the previous session, we had discussed what we mean by resonance. If we are setting a body into vibrations using the vibrations of another impressed body, then when the two frequencies match, there is a maximum amplitude of sound produced. That is what we call as resonance. So, when we know sound is a form of vibration, and using these vibration, if any other body inside the room is set into vibrations, and if the two frequencies match, that is the frequency of the sound and the frequency of the vibrating loose bodies which are present in a room which will start vibrating, the two frequencies match, there is a kind of noise produced in the hall, and that will reduce the clarity of speech or music in the hall. This defect is generally observed in small side rooms or halls. It does not come into picture when it is very big auditorium or theatres. It is seen only in small rooms or halls. So, what are the steps to be taken to prevent resonance? So, in big halls of greater volume, the resonance frequency lies below the audible range. So, the resonant vibrations of different materials die off quickly, and there is no effect or defect called resonance in huge halls. And also in theatre or auditorium, we can see the doors and windows are tightly sealed, they are not able to vibrate, and even if they vibrate, the frequency lies below the audible range. So, there is no problem of resonance in big halls, that happens only in small size rooms or halls. So, if there is no body which can vibrate with the frequency of sound, then resonance can be avoided. The next acoustical defect is focusing of sound, and what care has to be taken to avoid focusing, that we are going to discuss now. Now, due to the presence of spherical and cylindrical surfaces, like here, if there is a spherical surface or cylindrical surface here, when the sound falls on that and gets reflected and reaches the listener, the intensity of sound will be very high. Usually what we observe is, if the listener is far away from the source of sound, the intensity of sound will be less. If the sound reaches directly from the source to the listener, the intensity of sound will be less. But in the presence of spherical or cylindrical surfaces in a hall or a room, the sound gets reflected from the spherical surface and reaches the listener. Two or three such waves are reaching together in phase. So, there is a constructive interference taking place, and the intensity of sound will be very high. So, that will again create an unpleasant sensation to the ears. This defect we call as focusing of sound. So, focusing is generally happening due to the presence of spherical or cylindrical surfaces. So, if these cylindrical or spherical surfaces are avoided in a room, we can prevent focusing. So, what has to be done? As I told, avoiding the curved surfaces like spherical or cylindrical surfaces in a room, we can avoid or prevent the effect called focusing. So, that is the phenomena called focusing of sound, and what care has to be taken to prevent focusing in a room. The next defect is extraneous noise. So, outside sound may enter the hall or auditorium through the doors and windows to cause noise inside. So, this noise can be avoided by preventing the extraneous noise to enter the room. The passage of external noise to enter is of two types, airborne and structure borne. Airborne is the sound carried with the air from the external to the internal. Structure borne is the noise present within the structure. So, the former one can be controlled by using double or triple doors and windows with separate frameworks, and using curtains. Baffled ventilators can be used. The latter originates in the structure materials. The noise due to land borne, motors and other things can be called as structure borne, and the noise due to land borne motors and other things can be eliminated by causing discontinuity in walls by introducing of insulating materials at various places along the wall. So, some sound insulating materials can be placed in between the walls. So, continuity should be broken in walls, so that the sound cannot get propagated. So, sound insulating material will absorb the sound external noise, and that will prevent the extraneous noise. So, that is, those are the acoustical defects, that is echo, reverberation, interference, resonance and focusing of sound, and also the external noise which enters the room or hall. So, there are 6 acoustical defects: echo, reverberation, interference, resonance, focusing and noise, external noise. Generally or basically the defects, all defects are based on reflecting of sound. So, if the reflection of sound is prevented, most of the acoustical defects can be taken care of. And to prevent reflection of sound, we have to prevent the hard surfaces and cover those hard surfaces with sound absorbing materials or sound insulating materials. So, that will absorb more sound, preventing reflection of sound. So, once the reflection of sound is prevented, we can prevent echo, reverberation, interference, resonance. All these 4 defects can be taken care of, and by preventing cylindrical and spherical surfaces, focusing can be taken care of. So, sound absorbing materials are the major ones which help us in reducing the acoustical defects. So, we call that sound absorbing materials as sound insulation materials, and to study the properties of sound and that of speakers for recording, it is necessary to reduce the reverberation time, and this is achieved by making the surface of the room to absorb the incident sound energy completely. For this, the porous materials like with a number of air pockets are used for lining the floor, walls and ceiling. The materials which act as sound insulation materials are rubber, sponge, porous felt, rugs, cork, etc. And these materials we call them as sound absorbing materials or sound insulating materials, because it absorbs whatever major incident sound, whatever sound is incident on these materials is absorbed, and only a part of is getting reflected. So, we call these materials as sound absorbing materials or sound insulating materials. So, what are the requirements for good acoustics? That is, requisites for good acoustics, what we require to receive good quality sound. So, there should be uniform distribution of sound energy throughout the hall, that is the first requirement, uniform distribution of sound energy throughout the hall. There should not be any interference or focusing of sound which will reduce the uniform distribution of sound energy. Second, the reverberation time should be optimum. As I told, the reverberation time for speech is 1 second, and that for musical note should be 2 seconds. It should neither be less or greater than that. So, optimum reverberation time is a must to prevent reverberation. There should be total elimination of external noise, and that can be avoided by using sound absorbing materials or by having totally closed doors and windows to prevent the external noise to enter the room. And they should be undesirable focusing has to be avoided. There should not be any spherical or cylindrical surfaces which will cause focusing. Elimination of desirable interference, there should not be any interference of sound. As I told again, there should not be any interference of sound to which will hamper the uniform distribution of sound. So, to prevent interference, the sound absorbing materials can be used in a hall or a auditorium. So, those are the requirements to get good quality sound in a hall or an auditorium. The next topic we have to discuss is ultrasonics. Now, based on the frequency of sound, sound can be classified into three different types: infrasonics, audible range and ultrasonics. The sound frequency between 20 hertz to 20 kilohertz, or sometimes they classify it as 50 hertz to 20 kilohertz, that can be heard by human ears, and we call that as audible range. The frequencies of sound less than 20 hertz are called infrasonics, and frequencies of sound with frequencies greater than 20 kilohertz are called ultrasonic. So, sound is classified into three groups based on the frequency of sound. If the frequency is less than 20 hertz or 50 hertz, we call it as infrasonic. The range of sounds between 50 hertz to 20 kilohertz we call as audible range, and the sounds of frequencies greater than 20 kilohertz we call them as ultrasonic sound. So, the ultrasonics are the sound waves of frequencies greater than 20 kilohertz, and as we know, sound travels with a velocity of 330 meters per second. So, the wavelength of ultrasonic is calculated as 1.65 centimeter. Now, what are the properties of these ultrasonic sound? Since ultrasonics are basically sound waves, they possess the same properties as that of audible sound, but due to higher frequency they have some additional characteristics which help to use them in scientific field to a greater extent. Since the frequencies are very high for ultrasonics, we use them for various purposes in our field of science. Now, what are the properties of ultrasonics? The ultrasonic sound can travel a longer distance because of their high frequencies. They can travel through longer distances as a sharp beam. Normal sounds cannot travel through long distances. As the distance from the source and the listener goes on increasing, the intensity of sound goes on diminishing, and after some time the sound will die. We cannot listen or hear the sound itself, but the ultrasonic sounds, they can travel through longer distances as a sharp beam of sound. When ultrasonic sound falls on a body, they can produce heating effect in the body. Also, ultrasonics act as a catalyst in chemical reaction. Catalyst is a substance or a material which will increase the rate of the reaction. So, ultrasonic sounds can also be used as catalyst in some chemical reactions to fasten or speeden the reactions. Also, it can be used to produce some biological effect. So, ultrasonic sounds can also be used to produce some biological effects. Those are the properties, special properties of ultrasonics compared to that of sound, audible range of sound. Where do we use these ultrasonics? As I told, ultrasonics has wide applications in scientific field. Let us know few applications where ultrasonics are used. In addition to its application in our daily life, ultrasonics find a variety of application in the field of industry and medicine. When an intense beam of ultrasonic passes through a substance, heat is produced. This helps us to use it for welding plastic materials and to boil water. That is, the heating capacity of ultrasonic sound is used in welding of plastic materials and also in boiling waters. The second application, in the medicine field, ultrasonics is used to drill hole in the teeth for further filling purpose, as ultrasound scanner in the diagnosis of tumors, in treatment of certain types of cancer, etc. Ultrasonic sound or ultrasonics are used in the medical field. So, it is used to drill a hole in the teeth, and also in ultrasound scanning they use ultrasonics to diagnose tumors, and also ultrasonics, since they have the heating capacity, it is also used in treatment of certain types of cancer to burn the cancer cells. The next application is, in the industries, ultrasonics are used for detecting flaws in material. If there is any crack in a furnace or any defect in the metal, that can be detected using ultrasonics. If sound is passed through such metals, if there is a defect or crack, the sound will get transmitted. If there is no defect, the sound will get reflected. So, detection of reflection and absorption of the sound, we can come to know where the flaws are existing in a metal. Also, it is used for the preparation of uniform composition of alloys. For example, we know bronze is an alloy, and if there should be uniform distribution of all metals throughout. Otherwise, when two metals, there is a difference in concentration between two metals, a cell can be set up and one metal will start undergoing corrosion. To prevent that, there should be uniform composition of alloys or uniform distribution of all metals in alloy. To do that, they can use the ultrasonics. So, ultrasonics are used in the preparation of uniform composition alloys. Thirdly, for removing dust and other unwanted things from the metals, ultrasonics are used. And also, fourthly, we have ultrasonic washing machines which use ultrasonic sounds to wash clothes. And the next application of ultrasonic is in biological field. So, ultrasonics are used for killing flies and mosquitoes. The mosquito repellents what we use, due to the heating of the repellents, the ultrasonic sounds are produced, and that will irritate the flies or mosquitoes, making them to die. So, in biological field, ultrasonics are used for killing flies and mosquitoes. So, the next application is the sonar. Sonar is sound navigation and ranging. So, ultrasonic sounds are used in sound navigation and ranging. So, in the detection of aircrafts and submarines, ultrasonics are used, and that device we call as sonar, sound navigation and ranging. Ultrasonics from this device are transmitted in the form of strong pulses towards the target which has to be detected, and these waves, when it hit the target and gets reflected by the aircraft or submarines coming across in its path as an obstacle, and the reflected waves are also received by other part of the device, that is the receiver, and by knowing the time lapse after the transmission and till the reception of the pulse, we can find out the distance of the target using the formula d is equal to Vt by 2. So, d is equal to Vt by 2. V is the velocity with which the ultrasonic sound travels from the source to the target and back to the source, and the time T is the time lapse between the transmitted ultrasonic sound and the received ultrasonic sound. So, multiplying those two, we get, divide by 2 will get the distance between the target and the sonar, the machine which is used in detection of enemy aircrafts or submarines. So, that is sonar, sound navigation and ranging. The next application of ultrasonics is, it is used to find the depth of sea. The depth of the sea can be found using the device called fathometer or echo sounder. This consists of a transmitter and a receiver fitted at the bottom of ships. Ultrasonics are sent in the form of regular pulses towards the bottom of the sea. The reflected sound is received by the hydrophone or the receiver, and the time elapsed, the time lapse is noted. By knowing the velocity of ultrasonics in water, the depth of the sea can be calculated again using the same formula. D is equal to Vt by 2, where V is the velocity of sound, ultrasonic sound in water, and T is the total time taken by a pulse to reach the bottom of the sea and to come back to the receiver. So, the distance between the depth between the sea or the distance between the submarine or aircraft can be calculated using the formula D is equal to Vt by 2. So, these are the some of the applications of ultrasonics. So, first thing, it is used in heating of water, boiling of water, also in welding of plastic materials. It is used in medicine for the diagnosis of tumors, treatment of cancer, and also to drill a hole in the teeth. It is used in industries for detecting of flaws in metals, for the preparation of uniform composition of alloys, for removing dust and unwanted things from the metals, and also used in washing machines. In biological field, it is used to kill flies and mosquitoes. In sonar, it is used to determine the enemy aircraft, to detect the enemy aircrafts and submarines, and also it is used in finding the depth of sea. Now, lastly, we have a problem based on the Sabine's formula of reverberation time. The formula stands as, calculate the reverberation time in an auditorium of volume 30,000 meter cube and total surface area of 16,000 square meter using Sabine's formula. Given absorption coefficient is 0.3. Solution: we have been given the volume of the room V is equal to 30,000 meter, absorbing power or absorptive capacity small a is 0.3, the surface area of the room is 16,000 square meter. So, the absorption coefficient into surface area is 0.3 into 16,000, we get it as 4,800 square meter. So, using the Sabine's formula for reverberation time, T is equal to 0.16 V by A, where V is the volume and A is the absorbing surface absorbing power, we get the reverberation time as 1 second. So, the reverberation time is calculated using the Sabine's formula as 0.16 V by A. So, to conclude the session, today's session, we have discussed the two types of sound, that is musical note and noise. What are the differences between noise and music? What are the characteristics of music, that is pitch, intensity and quality of sound, and how to get a good quality sound in a hall or an auditorium, that is acoustics of building. What are the major problems we come across with respect to reception of good quality sound, that is acoustical defects, and also what care has to be taken inside a room to prevent these acoustical defects, that is acoustical remedies also we have discussed in our today's session. So, concluding my session, that is I have been handling the three chapters, that is the properties of solids, liquids, properties of gases, heat, and the last chapter wave motion. I have come to an end of my session, that is the wave motion, and the last topic in that wave motion is musical note or the acoustics of building. So, that is the last session of mine and also the last topic of wave motion. Thank you. Thank you.